Welcome, everyone, to episode 150. That is correct. 150 episodes of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantelleresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest for this 150th episode is Mel Anastasiou. She is one of the awesome ladies that runs Pulp Literature magazine. This is my second of the three. She draws when she's supposed to write. She writes when she's supposed to draw. She's a rebel, a rock star. Also, just a really cool person. I really enjoy chatting with her. I think you will too. Yeah. I think we're going to go into the interview really quick here. I say a little bit extra at the end. One thing I do want to kind of mention here is Merrill Books, Merrill Publishing, my publisher, I should say, has got my book, The Watcher, at a cheaper rate, $9.99 on their paperback, or 99 cents as a ebook. You can check it out there. That'd be great if you did that. But beyond that, yeah, things are rolling. Let's get to the interview, shall we? Okay, so this is how this works. I'm going to turn the recorder on like I just did. And we're going to start by saying if there's anything incriminating you want to do, say or confess, make it good, right?
That sounds very challenging. Okay.
I just, making it the way it goes. But beyond all that, how you doing? What are you working on right now?
Oh, I'm doing great. What am I working on right now? I'm actually working on a painting and putting together a new Stella Ryman novella.
Nice.
And editing a novel that we had sent. Yeah, it's such fun work, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I'm currently editing my first novel to be coming out next year. This novel has everything from zombie mobsters to unicorns that part rainbows and everything in between. So it's a silly, fun little romp. And I've tried to do NaNoWriMo, but I have just way too much on my plate this year. But I do have a good start to a decent young adult novel as time goes on. So when my plate clears up, I'll keep working on this.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And I get to talk to wonderful people such as yourself.
Well, right back at
you. Yeah. So I'm just gonna make sure I say this right here now. Melena?
It's Mel.
Mel?
It's Mel Anastasiou.
Okay.
For Melanie.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure I got this right because I have one of those really really funky last names myself. So
I was first married to a guy whose last name was May, and I thought, well, now I won't be spelling it, and I spelled it the whole time.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
So since then, I've stuck with Anastasiou.
No, it's all good. So for me, my name has actually been a spelling bee tiebreaker. Once upon a time back in I've gone to many schools. I've moved all over, and what ended up happening is so everybody would dread my name because every once a year we'd have this last name thing. So there was a spelling bee I was a part of, and they decided as a tiebreaker for one of the older grades, my last name. It was great. Watching older kids just look at you.
Did you get it?
No.
Nobody got it right?
Nobody got it right. Can't remember where it was settled, but I thought it was, for me personally, that was hilarious. Because I'm like, okay, it's like the one person that I can't say a word now because I'm in the competition, so it's like, I can't say a word. Damn it. Why couldn't this have been my tiebreaker? Yeah.
Yes, I was very grateful when the Disney movie Anastasia came out, if it was Disney.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden nobody asked me my name over and over again.
No.
It's spelled differently, but pronounced much the same.
Yeah, no, it's the... So is it like the same part of the world kind of deal, or?
It's Greek.
Oh, okay.
I suspect the same root.
Yeah. As for me, it's mine's Maltese. So once upon a time, once upon a time in a little island, somehow my family decided to leave that island and brave the brand new world. Once upon a time, but that's just the way it all seems to go. I
rarely meet Maltese people in Canada, but certainly here in the UK, you meet lots of wonderful people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually not too long ago I was a few buddies of mine that live in England now. They're Maltese, and they had a comic book, and they actually had me do an interview for them as back matter of the book, because I interviewed them for my site a long, long, long time ago, and they wanted to return the favor. I was like, oh, that was really cool. But anywho, so were you originally living in Canada once upon a time, or? Because I'm curious how you and JM met.
Where back and forth.
Back and forth.
Yep.
Ah, so where do you live normally? I know when you're over here.
In Canada, I live in BC. I have a place. My husband and I have a place on Bowen Island.
Oh.
And so we're centered around Vancouver and Bowen Island.
Okay.
And that's. And then when we're over here, we're in St Albans, and that's just north of London.
Ah, nice. England's kind of a curiosity. I've never actually been to England. I've been hearing from people I should go, so it's kind of on the list of things to do. But so hopefully I'm lucky enough to go.
Yeah, you can come, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So, did you start writing or did you start drawing?
Oh gosh,
You
I love writing. And then when I was over here, I was going to. One of the great things about London is that you can go to the great galleries, and they fill them up with artists all giving lectures. So I would go to the lectures and draw the drawings, and I was the worst in the class.
that's that. You sounded.
I would spend my time writing down at the artist computers, and I felt guilty, so I started drawing down there and getting more and more interested in what I could do with black and white, because not being an artist at all, I didn't want to invest in a lot of colors or try to copy directly, whatever. And so I wanted to see how I could represent 15th century altarpieces using black and white, and that's how I got into black and white illustrating.
Hmm. Well then, that's well.
Yeah.
Black and white is very deceptive in the sense that there's actually, although it might be simpler than color, there's a lot you can do with black and white, like tons. And I know this because my book series that just concluded had illustrations in there, and my artist, she did a lot of black and white illustrations. But you can dictate, like, you can tell amazing stories with just amazingly with just black, like with shadows, with movement. Like, you can create movement with it in such an interesting way. You can like do in some way, and sometimes black and white actually shows more detail. Color can distract sometimes, that right, whereas black and white tends to be what it is. So, and because it seems simpler, you can I think, I don't know, it's I think an underestimated layer, is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fascinating to work with. I really enjoy seeing what you can do with just the binary approach, black and white.
Yeah. So, if I had to pin you down, what's been your favorite thing you've done in terms of drawing?
In terms of drawing, oh my goodness,
I'm being
I love
evil.
illustrating. I love illustrating the magazine. It's such a lot of fun. It's a major pleasure for me, because I love the stories that people have written, and I do some of the editing for it, and I kind of love approaching it from an editorial standpoint, so that you know how when you're starting a book or a scene or chapter or whatever, you want to establish time, place, promise of genre, tone, and a hint of the central conflict, right? You want to get that
Hmm.
right up front. And so I try to do that with my illustrations to intrigue, but also help to set people into that particular way of enjoying a story from the start.
So you kind of see every story kind of as like a personal challenge a little bit. It's like, okay, what can I do to add something to this kind of deal?
Yeah, without, but being very careful not to weight it too hard to what I think the author's trying to give us. So
Yeah, which is
I rarely illustrate poetry, for example, because I just feel I've got to be super respectful of how much weight one picture will bring to a poem.
that's hilarious because my series was an epic poems with illustrations. It actually reads almost like a graphic novel.
How cool!
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Pardon me. No, it's just well, I kind of did like a prose style, and with the poetry itself, and so it worked out in such a way that images could convey a particular style in a particular direction. And what I found personally is it added a layer to the story, um,
Yeah.
because Florence, my illustrator, was really added, like, kind of put her own idea into the world. Like, she'd work with whatever specs I'd have, but she'd add her own details to it, things that would just, like, again, just add a depth to the world that wouldn't have been there just with words alone. Um, I'm a big comic book guy. Like, I love comics, and because I find it's the best of both worlds. You get words and pictures together. It's almost like you're mixing a medium to create something new and wonderful. And everything I do, um, I have to be honest with you. I do think initially when I do anything I do, there is a bit of a comic book feel to it because I always kind of I can almost imagine um, thought bubbles, like especially action scenes, like how it plays out in my head. I have a very very visual imagination, and so I find I actually like pictures, even if the interpretation wouldn't necessarily be what I would come up with. Um, like book covers sometimes are notorious for this. Sometimes I'll read the story and then I'll look at the cover and it's not what I would have done. Like it would now grant you what I would have done probably would end up with some very angry stick figures for going, why are you putting me on the front of this book? You know better than that. But I mean, in terms of the idea, what I'd want to execute on page, I think again, it's a I see differences sometimes, but sometimes it really works. Like I'm actually looking at a series called Cushell's Dark by Jacqueline Curry. The art really fits the style of story those particular covers do. Um, as much as I think the covers are amazing, I've always looked at the Wheel of Time covers sometimes a little differently. Again, because of how I imagine the Wheel of Time personally, it's very different. But it works because I can see where Michael Whalen was coming from. Does that make sense?
I love those covers too.
Yeah. Yeah, again,
Marion Churchland in graphic novels.
nice.
I do. I'm working on a graphic short story actually right now for the magazine. I think we're going to end up putting together a book of them because Jen Landels that you interviewed before.
Yes.
Yeah, she's an artist and she did an amazing graphic short. And I'm doing one right now called Meat, which is the name of a gargoyle, and here's the king's daughter. It's a lot of fun to do.
Ah.
Yeah.
Nah, that sounds actually really fun. So a gargoyle. Oh, that's awesome. That actually sounds really really cool. No, like I said, there's power in pictures, and even though that sometimes your interpretation would be very different than say mine, but that's part of the cool thing too. One picture gives you a hint into the world. Um, I think the thing you gotta be very careful of if you do pictures though is I found, like I said, for my poetry series, I found there was a balance between the words and the pictures. There has to be there has to be a point where the words can carry the weight, unlike a comic book where the pictures carry all the weight, and the words are I'm not gonna say unnecessary, but they're not as necessary a component. Um, the with a story, like whether it's prose or poetry or whatever the case may be, there has to be a point where the words have to be able to carry it themselves, and that's it. And even though pictures can add something to it, it loses something in a more traditional story if the words aren't strong enough. So
Yeah, it's an interesting matching of words and pictures in graphic short stories. I got heavily into it through one of my sons had all the Sandman graphic novels.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice.
Oh my goodness! I walked around for 2 days afterwards, couldn't write because it was like, oh, I've got to center myself. I've been taken to a totally different world of thought.
Yeah. Gaiman's that in my opinion is still Neil Gaiman's best stuff. I like his shorts, but I still think the Sandman stuff is his best work.
Stunning, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It was. I wish I was it started right before I collected comics, and I kind of wish I could have been a part of it at the beginning because it's just a cool series, start to finish.
Absolutely, and of course Watchmen.
Watchmen is interesting because Watchmen shows you just what kind of what you can do with a comic, like everything. Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore constructed and the cool, like I said, anyone that has never read Watchmen, it's not, the story in itself is a little dated, but the tools, the ability to tell a story in so many different ways.
Story within a story thing.
Yeah, there's that. I think my favorite little...
Just so inspiring.
Yeah, well, my favorite little thing in there he had like a Wired magazine style piece with Ozymandias, the interview they did there. It's like, it was really cool insight into Ozzy's character without actually, instead of wasting sometimes like even just writing today, plot sometimes is a bitch because there's no real easy way to put the plot in the story. Because in real life, we very often get caught in the details, and we're trying to muddle our way through them. Good fiction does the same thing, but at some point you have to inform the reader of the plot, and sometimes you can literally see it. There's this jarring moment in the story where the writer's like, okay, this is the plot, and you can actually read it, and you can go, this is the plot. And as someone that has been in this position, it's frustrating because you're like, I need to have this in here somewhere, but there has to be a better way of doing it, right? But sometimes there isn't, and it's like, well, I look at, like, science fiction is notorious for this. Like, I mean, they'll have a page or two. There are very few writers like Asimov who can explain things incredibly quickly, efficiently, and beautifully. I mean, and Asimov's a great, like, an all-time great. So like, getting that easily is next to impossible. But
what's your favorite Asimov?
Ooh, so for me, oh no, there's a couple. So for short stories, the Billard Ball, because the ending's so ambiguous, but really, really good. The Last Question, fantastic story. And finally, Nightfall.
Oh.
You go with the good ones, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. His essays, though, are probably, in my opinion, his best writing. He had a really good ability, no matter what.
I love thinking of him. Sorry, I love thinking of him typing away. My dad actually met him.
Really?
Yeah, they were both teaching in Boston. I think that Asimov was probably at Harvard as well. And one night, my dad and a buddy, they were quite young, went over to Asimov's house and knocked on the door.
He answered? Yeah.
Oh, answered.
Yeah.
Furious and welcoming at the same time, and they just talked on the doorstep. It was 10 o'clock at night or something. And Asimov just told a whole bunch of jokes.
Yeah.
and they closed the door.
It's like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm going to do my stand-up routine, so then you'll go away and leave me alone.
Oh, well, then you should be able to hear me talking.
Yeah, you faded, you disappeared for just a second, and then it was like...
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, now you're all clear again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a ways away.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah. Wonderful world we live in. I mean, this would not have been possible even 10 years ago.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I've got a son in Hanoi and a son in Calgary, so it's great that I can talk to them both.
yeah. Well, I think like we live in a very interesting world in that more and more it's becoming very apparent to me that we are becoming literally a world of ideas. If you look at genetics, you look at resource management, you look at aeronautics, it doesn't really matter what the field is today anymore. Like the biggest thing everybody's going for today is intellectual property. It's not so much making the materials anymore, it's the idea itself. So if you really sit there and think about that, we literally are in a world of ideas today.
So we're lucky to be writers.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, but again, a lot of people don't look at it that way. But I mean, if you sit there and think about it, we can talk to anybody on the planet. We have gotten to the point where manufacturing is almost obsolete. Which that's mind-boggling if you sit there and think about that. We've gotten to the point where we are building not just big giant things, but we're building on an atomic, subatomic, nano, pico level. We literally are in a world of language and ideas.
Yeah. I remember about 20 years ago seeing a Scientific American article about how they are now able to move electrons from one place to another.
Yeah.
Which meant you've got a yes-no at the size of an electron, and just what's taken off from that, I guess, is incredible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
To have the ability to have a binary 1-0 at the electronic level. Wow.
Yeah. And we've gone even smaller than that now, which is truly,
Yeah.
which is,
that was 20 years ago.
yeah.
It's a step.
Yeah, but it was like that's the world we live in. And a lot of us take it for granted. Like you know, in one hand, like on one hand, like just personal beliefs here a little bit. It's amazing to me because we live in a world where like no one seems to believe in magic or God or anything like that anymore. But when you can look at what we can do, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define magic. You know, if you're looking at invocations and magic spells, maybe those things aren't as common as they once were. But hacking sort of seems like spell work and looking if you look at just what we could do, again, everything we do today is language. Everything.
Yeah. Do you remember that series by Randall Garrett, Lord Darcy Investigates?
I've heard of it. I never actually read it.
Yeah, it's an alternative history murder mystery where science is outlawed and magic is science.
Yep.
So he investigates. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I always think of that every time I see the science magicians.
Yeah. Well, I said this in a podcast that just came out not too long ago. As artists, we have become more like engineers, and engineers have become more like artists. So we just live in such an interesting time and age. Who knows where this all goes? Maybe 20 years from now, we say we go in a completely different direction. But right this minute, I mean, we legitimately live in an age of possibility, and that gives me.
You look at stuff like what's happening with just basic understandings of, as much as one could, of particles and element. I mean, who knows what that's going to bring?
Yeah.
But then you look back at the great thinkers from the 40s and 50s in science fiction, and think about Heinlein, who, the engineer considered that we'd go robotics.
Yeah.
And instead we went computers.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's funny because we are going more robotics today, and not now we seem to be entering an age of robots. I saw artificially intelligent being make a conversation for the first time ever this last couple of weeks.
Cool. I have a robot vacuum cleaner, finally.
Yes.
I've been waiting for it since I was 17.
Well, I find myself personally with with machines. They all came, like, if you really sit there, the idea of a machine came from the idea of a light bulb. On and off. Interesting, huh?
Mind reading.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't quite broken that. We haven't quite broken that quantum level of where 1 and 0 are the same. We haven't quite got there yet, but we're good. Who knows? 20 years.
That's right.
20 years from now, who knows? At that point, I might exist in 3 different places at once. I don't know if the universe is ready for me to exist in three different places at once, but who knows? Right? So.
Yeah, exactly. My brother's an engineer. He's always talking about how impossible the transporter is in Star Trek. But I have got him convinced that he just has to invent the Tesseract to help us travel.
Well, there's that, but they've also actually been able to transport molecules from one space to another.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's been done. It's being worked on bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. Like I said, we live in a cool age, so.
Yeah, glad to be here to see it.
Yeah. So you've written we talked about your art. We've kind of gone to this age of wonders and miracles. So I guess we should talk about your writing at some point.
Sure.
Yeah. So besides the fact that you write when you're supposed to draw and you draw when you're supposed to write.
I'm a rebel.
Yeah, you're rock star.
Against myself.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. You got this huge rock star mentality over there. I can totally tell. But
that's very nice to hear. I'll try to behave more like one.
Okay, listen. But look, I gotta let you in on a little secret. See, if I ever get to the point where I'm 80 and I can't do the things I'm gonna do, I'm still like my plan for the mosh pit, for doing mosh pits when I'm 80 is I'm gonna get a wheelchair. I literally did a concert once. I got actually hit in the head. I look up and there's this wheelchair there. There's this person in a wheelchair getting passed along the mosh pit. I'm like, that is cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's so. You see,
I'd love to see my heroine do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, who's your heroine?
I write about a woman named Mrs. Stella Ryman, and she's an amateur sleuth, an octogenarian amateur sleuth who's trapped in a down-at-heels care home.
Yep.
You'd be cranky too?
Yeah, you would be. But that's so what you do is you give her an umbrella. Like, you give her an umbrella.
Yeah.
And it's mostly it's her weapon of intimidation. Because they get mad, she just hits them with the umbrella. I gotta tell you.
Her weapon is definitely her intellect.
That's the true weapon.
A former school librarian.
Yeah.
She knows people.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
She's so bored, Josh. But luckily, there's lots of stuff happening in the care home, so especially down at Heels one. So it's a lot of fun to write. I've written 10 novellas of that one.
Wow.
And the first 5 make a full story arc, so we published that one this year. Stella Ryman and the Fairmount Manor Mysteries. And then I've written the second group of 5, so that's my 10. And so that'll be Stella Ryman and the Ghost at the End of the Bed. So she's a lot of fun to write because she's so wise and she's been around. But you get I went to help a friend moving a TV for somebody at a care home, and I was standing there and just going, "What on earth would you do with yourself all day in a place like this?" Because these are people who've had careers, their minds are, they may not be able to feel that they can take care of themselves, but they're the minds of people just like everybody else, and they don't have a lot to do.
Well, it's really funny.
What do you do to keep yourself active?
It's really funny because okay, my grandmother is 80, and she still has her own house. She has all her faculties. She's slower than she used to be. Still has a heck of a right hand, but I mean she's slower than she used to be, and and she's able to do it fine. I think the thing is, it's funny when we get older, when we get older, if we're not engaged, we're not living. And the fun and the irony is the people that have done their thing for a long period of time, whether they're in their whether they're in their 60s or 70s or their 80s. I mean, you got a wealth of experience, you got a wealth of knowledge, you got a wealth of wisdom, and we shun it. We put it in a corner, basically. If you really sit there and think about what those homes are.
You lie there and you don't think about all the bright humanity that's inside.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's you're writing an what you might call an unreliable narrator, because sometimes things go fuzzy.
Yeah.
And that's say normal. I mean, things go fuzzy when you're young too.
Oh, absolutely.
She's getting a bit more of her share this time. But the thought of having the bravery to carry on every day to help the people around you when you have basically sold everything, given up everything except a few, things that you can keep in your room in these places. And, so what do you do?
Well,
what a fun to write.
It's okay. That's interesting, because I've done that. Like I've been in situations in my life where I've had to give up everything, and it's oddly freeing. If you really want to know the truth of that, it's very freeing concept. It's scary when you consider that, but you realize at some point, you just realize that you are not your things. And a lot of people. This is the thing. If you look at strictly like where I'm at right now, I don't have a lot to my name. I'm good with that, actually. I don't need a lot, because I'm by myself. I'm doing my thing, and that's life. And
that's admirable.
Yeah, but the thing is,
I moved here with 2 suitcases, and somehow I've got 2 walls of books.
Yeah, no, it happens. I used to, my room literally at one point, once upon a time, a long time ago, my room was literally a pathway of books. On top of everything that was in the shelf, on top of everything else I was doing. I was so OCD, I actually had an order of books I was going to read once upon a time. I had it all nailed down. I kept buying books. At this point, I've gotten to the point where I don't necessarily need a lot of things. I just realized that for me, that doesn't mean anything. What matters is, am I doing what I want to do? Am I able to freely pursue my goals, whatever they are, and am I encumbered by everything? Because there comes a point too with things, they trap you, and if you're not careful, it's like baggage. There just comes a point in your life where you have to kind of go, okay, it's time to, I don't need this anymore, or I don't want this anymore, and I'm cool giving it to somewhere else somewhere in the aether that needs this stuff, because I don't, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I have things. I got way too many comic books. I really do. I really do. It's the next thing I'm actually going to be purging. But I mean, when you get right down to it, you'd be surprised how little you actually need. And so that part, that part is, if you're ready for it, is much easier than I think you realize. It's daunting at first, but then you just realize at some point you're not going to take all this stuff with you anyway when you're dead. If you're not using it, why have it?
Well, I think your grandmother's right to stay in her home.
I wish she had a smaller home. Like at this point, like a little smaller, it'd be easier on her. But I understand too. Like, she's worked hard for that.
Yeah, well, and we don't get into things because they're easy anyway, right?
I find usually I find the worst things you can do usually involve because they're easy.
Yeah.
Actually, almost always, because it seems easy at the time, is always almost the worst reason to do it.
Oh, sure. I mean, when I'll say, anybody got any ideas for this story? Somebody for an illustration for this one. Somebody will say, "Well, this would be easy." And I go like, no thanks.
It's like no. Then you
impress me.
No, then you run. It's like no.
Yeah, you don't get into writing because it's easy.
No, you don't get anything worthwhile. Nothing worthwhile is easy. Like nothing.
Or podcasting.
Or no, absolutely. I mean, although the great thing about this is, like I said, I get to talk to this awesome person named Mel from England, who I'm a little jealous of because she draws better than I do. She's got wine right now, which I mean, it's a little early for me to do that. I mean, I could, but that would wreck the rest of my day, and I just got too much to do. And yeah, so
Sun goes over the yard arm, Josh. It's true.
yeah.
But it's been over here for a while.
Yeah, well, see, again, it's about where we're at, right? You're in England, so you've had your day to do your stuff. Now you're like, yes, I can laze about. I can have a drink. I can enjoy the moment. I can put up with this Canadian podcast dude Mickey set me up with to talk to today. You know, I can totally do that. Me, I'm like, you're the start of my day. So, which by the way, there are far worse starts to have, in all honesty. So.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Good stuff.
So, I think we have something that resembles an interview anyway. I don't know if I did a good job or not, but I definitely enjoyed talking to you. So, yeah. So, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna talk about the issue coming up for Pulp that you want to talk about, and then you're going to let people know how they can find you.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issues that are coming up. And we're just publishing issue 17 and working on issue 18. Our covers are just amazing. It blows me away. What we got a feature artist, a feature author in each one, which is always exciting. Like Casey Dyer, we've had J.J. Lee.
Yes.
Joe McLeod. She was amazing. Cece Humphreys a couple of times.
Yeah, no,
And,
I'm actually insanely jealous of the quality of your magazine.
oh, that's nice to hear.
Oh, I said this to Jam. It is one of the most professional looking magazines I've seen.
That's J.M. Landel's and our designer is just fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, I just want to say, you put in a lot of great work. You really, really did, and you should be proud of it. 18 issues in this day and age.
Yeah, and you know, when we first started it, there was a lot of how can you think of doing this, and we're just like, you know what? When it seems hardest, that's where your opportunities are.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and so the story quality, we tried again. Stories are so rich.
Yep.
And so much fun, and a good balance between the end of the world and funny stuff.
Yep.
And really good poetry. Our poetry editor is a prize winner and just an amazing mind. And he does all the poetry. We leave that to his expertise. And then for the rest, we're so lucky in all the editors that we've got.
Yep.
And the writers that we're able to publish. We're just so excited about their stories every time. Something great, like those little bits and bites. Every time is a different mix. So,
yeah. Oh no, it's
reads that are written so well.
Yep. I'm currently looking at issue. I'm currently looking at issue 8 because I do have one of your mag. I do have one of your mags. When I talked to Jam, I bought one. No, it's just good stuff.
Yeah. Which cover is issue 8?
The Man in the Long Black Coat by J.J. Lee.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, yep, that was a good one.
That was a brilliant. That was Christmas a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
Pardon the interruption, but yeah, you got issues coming up. And how can people find you if they want to find you?
Oh, okay. I'm Mel Anastasiou.
Yeah.
And I'm an editor at Pulp Literature, so you'll find us at pulpliterature.com, where we publish the quarterly anthology of great reads, oh my gosh, in an illustrated magazine. Most gorgeous covers you'll find, I think. We work hard to make it the most beautiful magazine we could possibly imagine. And I write the Stella Ryman and the Fairmount Manor mysteries, and I write the Hertfordshire Pub mysteries with Spencer Stevens and the Seven Swans. and I write the Monument Mysteries, which is about a Vancouver girl who goes to Hollywood in 1934 to become a star and becomes the extra. And you'll find my blog mostly on writing structure and my own works. So you'll find it at melanastasiou.wordpress.com.
Oh, right. And that was Mel Anastasiou. Now I know I said it right here. So check out Pulp Literature magazine. I'm going to make a recommendation that you actually go to the Patreon page at Pulp Literature and support them. They have a great book and it's a good magazine, and it's truly has some amazing content, and you should definitely check it out because it's awesome. And wow, 150 episodes. So, am I going to do 150 more? I have no idea. This has definitely been always a fun thing. I consider myself very lucky because I look at just the guests I've had, and I've met some amazing people. I really, really have, and I feel very honored to have met who I've met. And I think as long as I feel that way, I can always do this podcast. And I got some big plans for it this year, and how to expand it and go with it. So, which reminds me, I'm going to close the show with this today. My next live show is going to be March 22nd at Owl's Nest Books. I am going to be interviewed. There will be alcohol. I will be promoting my current book, The Wandering God. You can check that out. I would have loved to have you all there. I'm going to be promoting the heck out of that from here on in until the day of the show, here and a few other spots as well. You're all welcome to come. Check it out. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. Dream with your eyes wide open. Like I said, you can do a bunch of things to support me. Buy my books, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Joshua Pentellaresco. Any way you go, though, stay inspired, keep doing great things, and I will see you next time.
Josh.